Hi there. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Julie Tam, managing broker of LYN Realty in Houston, Texas, and I have a very special guest with me today. I'm going to introduce him in just a second. As you can tell, we're going to have a lot of fun during this conversation. Phil and I just egg each other on. But today we're talking about investment properties. So a lot of people think about, should I invest in real estate? What types of investments should I make? And, my friend here, Philip Estrera, who went to Rice University with me. He was a couple years ahead of me, and we became great friends there and have remained friends over the years for, more than 20 years now.
Oh God.
Phil is coming to us from New York and New York City, in fact. And of course, I'm down in Houston. So we're very far apart. I miss him terribly. But, the good thing is that we have Zoom during this pandemic. And he has come into a property in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, in fact, and had questions for me recently about what he should do in terms of renting it out, because he knows that I'm in real estate. And I gave him some advice, and I thought, what better way to help the viewer than to put some of these questions plus some additional questions in our show so that you too can learn. So thanks for being here on Smarter Real Estate, my weekly Wednesday show. Thank you, Phil, for joining us for this.
Of course, of course.
So Phil, you tell us about this property, a little bit about it, how you came into owning this property, and where you're at right now.
Well, essentially, I bequeathed it because my mother passed away, and so that's how I got the property.
Which I'm very sorry for. And Phil's mom was just
yeah.
an amazing, delightful woman, and it's terrible that this is the conversation to be had after such an event. But you have a property now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not a great way to get a property, but I do have one. I'm trying to find so it's a 1-bedroom property, and it's about 765 square feet.
Okay. One bath, I'm assuming.
One bath, yes. The appliances in the kitchen are pretty much what it came with from I feel like it was the maybe late 80s.
Okay.
So that's
a little younger than us. A bit younger than us.
A lot younger than us.
No, several years.
10 years younger. Yeah, 2 decades younger than 3 decades. No
way.
Yeah. Wait, was there another question you'd asked about that?
Where is it? Tell us about.
Oh, it's in Rockwall, Texas. Rockwall, Texas. The state of where, essentially where we're at in the process, or where I'm at in the process with it, is that we've basically gone through and have got, my sister-in-law was down there, and after the funeral, I had gotten a chance to sort of do an initial survey of it. But my sister-in-law, once I had to leave, she ended up helping out and clearing out a lot of the furniture and stuff. And we had a person come and donate it and do the dumpster thing, where whatever we couldn't, we had to throw out. But it was actually sort of not difficult, but a little tricky with the COVID.
And I'm gonna, while you talk, I'll pull up some photos of what you were talking about. Sure, continue.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else there is to say about it.
Was it rented out before, Phil?
No. Well, technically, no. Well, yes, technically, yes, because it was my sister-in-law's brother that lived in there for a little bit, but okay. That's the only person that has ever lived in there, I believe.
And you see the picture on the screen, right? Oops, I just clicked off.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's back. Okay. So obviously there are some things that were left behind.
Yes.
So he, I guess, was in the process of moving out at the time?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Yes, that was all. These were in the process of it. And it was clearing out a lot of that stuff.
Okay, got it. So I'm seeing some, it looks like, is it wood floors or a vinyl wood?
Oh God, I think it's laminate wood.
Laminate wood, okay.
Not real wood floors though. Yeah.
But it doesn't look bad.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think she had recently had those installed within the past, I want to say maybe 10 years.
Okay, so it has been updated.
The floors, yes.
But I can see what you mean. So the microwave obviously looks, in addition to
Th-
the range and the dishwasher, quite original. And this is probably a trash compactor down here. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that stuff. Yeah, that might.
Fridge
Yeah,
looks
that
old
stuff is
too,
like.
actually, now that I'm looking at it more closely, the handles, the old style handles.
Hmm.
Okay. And
Yeah.
obviously, you have the Formica countertops. These look like original cabinets, the
Hmm.
wallpaper,
Hmm.
that sort of thing. So yeah, so like what I see right off the bat, obviously, is the appliances should probably be replaced. That's the tough part because when you
Yeah.
have working appliances, you don't necessarily want to just toss them out because it's a waste, right?
Right.
But unfortunately, unless other units in this community also are dated and people are still leasing them just fine, like for some reason, because of the location or whatever, then you do probably need to replace these, especially the ones that are more dated. They may be all from the same era. It looks like. Um,
Yeah, I think for sure. Yeah, I think obviously like the oven and the dishwasher. Yeah, and the trash. Yeah, all that stuff I think is from the same era. I
right.
think that's what it came with.
Yeah. So then let's just click around here
That's the dumpster.
that you guys are hauling things off with. Okay. What floor is this unit on? I'm seeing multi-story.
So that what you're seeing is it's like a sub it's like a it's on the it's a one story like unit.
Mhm.
So the ones you're seeing behind it are the ones that are like triple floors or four, maybe it's even four floors. But yeah, mine is actually its own unit, standalone units.
Oh, so on the ground level
Hmm.
with nobody above.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. But just neighbors on each side.
yeah, and you can see the lake actually from it.
Oh, that's nice. Like out the window, if you look out the
Yeah,
window.
out the window. And
Well,
I think
that's
there's a picture of the veranda, but it's like it's not. Yeah, you can sort of. Yeah, you can. It's basically you can see it, but not like it's not like right on the lake.
okay. So, and I see like a light fixture here, for example, the ceiling fan looks more original, so that can be replaced. So there are certain things when I kind of tell you about, we'll get into some of these more nitty gritty ones a little bit later, but there are certain things that you can replace that are not that expensive, right? So let's go back to, so first of all, you probably need at least touch up painting. It's hard to tell colors in pictures all the time, what
Right.
exact shade that is. And, if it looks like a dated color or something that's not as desirable, you might need to paint the whole thing. If it's
Mhm.
actually a nice neutral color that's, somewhat modern, then you could get away with just saying, touching up, for example, and just getting all the scuff marks gone. The wood
Sure.
floors look like they're in pretty good shape. So if that's the case, you can leave those there. Hard flooring is desirable.
Mhm.
But if we go back, let's see here, that front door, that's
You mean
looks
should I
good.
get rid of that thing hanging on the side of it?
Oh, yes. Oh, and yeah, and I see the washer and dryer are,
Mhm.
older. Um, can we actually see what year? I'm trying to look.
I feel like that model is from the 80s too.
Okay.
Does it say?
It's really hard to say. I don't think so. But you know what? If you Googled the model number or the serial number, you could potentially find out. But yeah, I mean, visually speaking, we can see that it's a bit older. But let's see, where is that kitchen? Here. So the countertops are not that many. Are there any more countertops that we don't see in
No,
this photo? That's it.
that's it.
Yeah, so I mean, so the caveat here is, of course, I work in the Houston area market. That's DFW. DFW as a market is a little bit pricier than Houston in terms of home prices, and potentially also some of the labor and material costs, but not a whole lot of difference because it's only 4 or 5 hour drive north of Houston. So just a small kitchen like that with not many countertops, you can replace that Formica with granite, for example, say your level one or even a level two granite for probably about $1,000 something, like really not that much money. I mean, you're talking about essentially like 1 month's rent, for example,
Mhm.
but you can lease it out faster. It's attractive. It's going to last a long time unless someone does something crazy, but under normal use, it's going to last. And, the Formica, as far as the parts that are visible, looks like it's still in good shape, but I just think it's a good idea to just go ahead and replace that just to make it more attractive to lease out. And then your cabinets, are they in good shape in terms of structurally, like any water
Yeah,
damage?
I think so. I mean, yeah, they are. They
Okay.
just I don't think they're really that attractive though, but
There you go. Um, and so, yeah, so that would be something where you'd want to, structurally, they could be sound, if there's not damage that where you actually need to replace the cabinets themselves, but maybe you just want to paint them to give them a more modern facelift.
right.
Or if they're originally stained, if you're able to get them sanded and restained just to a more modern, color, that'll freshen it up and then be a lot less expensive because you're just dealing with surface rather than actually ripping out cabinets, and replacing them all. But even if you were ripping them out, which I don't suggest if they're structurally sound, but if you were ripping them out because there's not that many cabinets, as we can see, uppers and lowers, again, you're looking at, maybe just a couple or a few thousand. So, I mean, if you can just spend that money, it's like losing a few months rent, but you may actually rent it out faster by, that amount of time. And then of course, each subsequent tenant that's going to come in, you're already going to get that higher rent. And that's the other thing is you're going to get higher rent off the bat and then rent it out for higher each time. And these are things that are going to, last and stay with the home for a long time. One thing to watch out for, if you replace the granite and you don't replace the cabinets and you decide to replace cabinets later, when you rip the cabinets out, it's very likely that the granite is going to get cracked because they'll have to lift up the slab to
Mm,
replace it. And in that case, that's a big waste, obviously, of the granite that was replaced. But if the cabinets are really in very good shape and you don't need to replace them right now, then don't, and then it's just fine to just, get the facings redone and make them just look more modern. And adding knobs is such a cheap and easy way. I always tell people you can buy little cabinet knobs for like $1 or $2, just even simple ones, because nowadays simple is what's in, and just
mhm.
install them on there. And there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, about a dozen cabinets or fewer. Boom, 20, $30. And all of a sudden you have a really good looking kitchen, And even that, when you replace the granite, you'll want to replace that sink, make it an under mounted sink where instead of having, well, you can't see my finger pointing. Let me see. Can you see my mouse?
Yeah, I can see your
Okay,
mouse.
okay, awesome. So instead of the sink coming up over the lip coming up over the counter, like the new way to do it is where it's under mounted so that the counter comes spilling over the sink rather than the
Right.
other way around. And then you have a nice looking new sink, new faucet, get the fixtures, to something more modern, and it will just make it look much better. So yeah, go
Do you
ahead.
know typically how long have you found that it takes to like do that kind of renovations to a place?
So of course, for us, as property managers in Houston, we have contractors that work with us, and so like a cabinet and kitchen job, they could literally get in and out in a day or a couple days, um, because they're professionals, they know what they're doing. So it's about you coordinating it really efficiently. Like we have properties like this where we have to not only make them ready, but in some cases do some upgrading and updating, like we're talking about here. And I don't know why every time I'm clicking around, I can't find that kitchen picture. Here it is. Okay, let's come back to it. Um, and we can get the whole place done in literally just a few weeks, right? Sometimes it's about lining up the contractors. If a contractor's really busy, they can hold up the process a little bit if they're getting some other
Right.
jobs done. So then you gotta do all the dirty work first, right? You got to do the things that I was just talking about, the painting, the cabinet painting, the wall painting, the granite countertop, changing that out, changing out appliances after that, because
Mhm.
you don't want to have all that dirty work going on with new appliances installed. So you want to do it in order. And then your flooring, is it all this wood floor throughout the whole unit, or is there other types of flooring?
I believe it is through the whole unit.
Or is
Um,
in the bathroom, is it maybe tile or another type of
I don't think
flooring?
so. I think the bathroom is also the laminate.
Really? Okay. Well, yeah, if it's all that flooring, then you don't even have to change out flooring. I usually like to change out flooring kind of last because any of the paint and stuff that's all dirty that falls down, if you're going to rip the floor out anyway, then you can save money on, not having to have your painter put down like the tarp and all that. Sometimes they charge you less for not having to put that down.
Mhm.
And then, of course, you can get the old flooring dirty and not worry about it, then change into the new flooring at the end.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, but sometimes when the flooring contractor comes in, they may nick the baseboards a little bit as they're installing new flooring. And so then you might have to get the painter to come back in and touch those areas up, for example, if the flooring contractor doesn't cover that type of damage and scuffs. And then, the very last thing, of course, is to come in and do a clean, when all the dirty work is done.
Yeah,
Um,
could you repeat that order of what you
yeah,
said? Yeah.
So I kind of like the top down approach. So like all dirty and dusty, big things, like painting, replacing countertops, painting of surfaces from, cabinets and walls, like all kind of painting, and even replacing light fixtures like we saw with the ceiling fan. If there's any other light fixtures that we don't see in the pictures, but maybe to get them to match to something more modern, whether it be a chrome or like a brushed nickel. There's some even more modern new things like gold and black, but that's really high end. And so this may not be where you want to go with this place, right? You
Right.
might want to just do something kind of more middle of the road, a little bit maybe higher end touches, but not like super high end.
Hmm.
Yeah. And then once all the dirty work is done, then of course, in this case, you're saying the flooring is all what we see, so you don't need to do anything with that. But if you did, then you would do that next, and then
Right.
replace the appliances, and then do a nice deep clean at the end. You'll want to make sure to replace air filters because all that dust from the construction, if the air filters were already dirty, even if they weren't, now they're going to be really dirty. So get those replaced, so that way you're not damaging the HVAC system, and then
Hmm.
they're fresh and new for the tenant. And then if there's any odors or whatever for any reason, like if there were previous pets or anything smoking, then obviously you want to do the deodorizing. Obviously you can just keep the windows and doors open to let it air out. That's kind of the free way to deodorize. Painting will cover up any odors. I'm not saying your condo has any odors, but if it did, and then of course, all the cleaning, the Pine Sol or, whatever brand of products that have, strong fragrances that help to deodorize.
Right.
Air duct cleaning is a way to deodorize if there was such an issue, or if there were pets, that have dander, then you can, get rid of that. That way people aren't coming in and having allergies if they have that issue, for example. So yeah, some people's noses are pretty sensitive. So when people are coming to look at the place, you don't want them to
Yeah.
react. So
Right.
yeah, tell me
So I should
more
like
about
bake, so I should bake cookies or something.
right? Chocolate chip cookie scented candles.
Right.
Yeah, tell me about some of the other stuff going on. It looks like there's some maybe water damage. So of course,
Yeah.
wallpaper you want to rip it
So
out
yeah.
and replace it,
So we
or
had an
paint over
HVAC person. We had an HVAC person come in specifically for this,
it.
and apparently that was caused because once whoever was, I don't know when it was closed, but that little vent when someone was taking a shower, they had
Mhm.
closed it, and it had gone like condensation had happened inside that duct.
Okay.
But they said it's actually pretty superficial, and that if I wanted, I could. I think one option was to put insulation into it, or the other option was to change out all the ducts. But that was actually because it's an older place. That's a it's sort of a problematic thing because once you touch one duct, it could end up like hitting the infrastructure of all the ducts.
Mm.
So, yeah, but I think that to do all the air ducts was a couple thousand, but then to do insulation would probably be like a fix that would last for a while. That was only like 1,000 something.
Okay. What is this little white thing over here? Does water come dripping out of that in this corner? Oops.
That looks like oh, I was like, God, is that a security camera? No, that's not a
No, it does
security.
look like it at first in the
It's
shower.
not. It's what that was there was I think that was like a shower curtain type rod thing that was pulled out.
This
Like,
white thing?
yeah, I think so.
Huh. But that's weird.
I don't think it's a no, that's definitely not a camera. Because I think it used to be that used to be like I think it was one of those like ceiling. Although, can you zoom in on it?
Let's see. Because I was thinking some of the older properties, although I don't even remember if in the 80s they did this, maybe, but in the 70s and prior more so, they would have, I keep trying to point at the screen as if you can see it, that doesn't work, but where my mouse is, they'll have up on the ceiling, not on this board thing, but like say over here on the sheetrock of the ceiling,
Let me see if I can look on my
a secondary drain line from the AC that will drip into the shower, which is something that we don't have anymore. I'm opening up the picture so that I can.
Oh yeah, that's some sort of. Oh,
Even,
maybe it is what you were saying. Yeah, it's or no, I think it may have been some sort of like.
it's just odd because normally the pipe points down, whereas this hole is on the side. Well, I zoomed in, but it makes it actually more pixelated, so that isn't.
Yeah, no, that's like, I think a rod went in. I feel like a rod may have gone into that.
Okay.
Or like one of those curved rods, but I maybe not. It could have been what you're saying, but that's sort of.
Who knows? All right. Well, we'll move on beyond that one. And so you have the water heater. Was there something special about this picture that you wanted to share?
No, I just
Okay.
wasn't sure if you wanted to see something like
Okay.
the energy saver.
I gotcha. Okay. So let's
But
just click
but
through and
you do think it's worth at the very beginning, like replacing all of the appliances.
so what, obviously, if you have a local realtor, that's going to be best. They can look at the comparable units in that community and maybe perhaps surrounding communities that would compete with this community. Have you taken a look at that? Are other units updated or are they not?
I feel like I think other units are updated. I think mine really looks old.
Okay. So yeah, that's the problem is if other people are updating, then you might end up not being able to lease out as quickly because consumers expect the units to be updated, right? And so, and with the appliances, clicking back over here, yeah, a new refrigerator, and you can do a basic one, just like the one you see in this picture, just kind of like a top bottom or a French door, or what they call side by side with the fridge and
Right.
freezer side by side. Doesn't have to be really fancy. Some people like to have ice makers, but ice makers are kind of the most problematic element to a fridge. They break down more often, and then you got to repair it, and it gets costly. So even a basic one like this is fine with the ice trays inside. And so, you could get one of these for as little as sometimes on sale, several $100s, not even $1,000, right? So, I mean, we've gotten some for our properties for like $600, $700, which is pretty good. And then, you're talking about, several hundred for a range. You got a
Mhm.
built-in over the range microwave, that's another few hundred pop, dishwasher, same thing. So for just a few thousand, you've got four appliances there.
Mhm.
Looks like they have a countertop microwave too, but you don't need two. You just do the built-in, with the vent hood over the range. So yeah, you got four appliances. You can spend maybe a couple $1,000s or so.
Mhm.
And then when I say a couple thousand, I literally mean 2,000, 3,000, and you can get those all updated. Again, getting kind of the not necessarily the bottom of the line, but a lower end appliance, just something basic that works, right?
Right.
Um, and not fancy features and stuff. And in
Right.
fact, fancy features, especially the ones with those little, kind of the soft flat touch buttons, those tend
Mhm.
to go out more easily, like
I
the
was gonna say
motherboard.
they probably would have over time would have more issues.
Exactly. And then you're going to have problems. So, and the trash compactor is really not a popular appliance these days. So, if it still works, you can just leave it there.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we've had properties with those where we just, if it doesn't work anymore, we pull it out. And then it's just
Mhm.
an opening where someone can just put a trash can, or
Oh,
store
and then
a
just
small
put
broom
it
or something in there. So, it's just a little storage space, right?
and
So,
then put like a door over it,
we
right?
haven't yet, but I
Right.
guess you get fancy and I don't know, or
Well, I
install
mean,
other
but I mean, if I pull out the trash compactor, wouldn't it just be like a random? But I guess maybe a random space is still fine.
Yeah, so you would see the sides of the neighboring cabinets, right? Like the
Mhm.
sides of those, the wood. So it could look okay. There could be damage in there or not, like depends on, when they were installing it. So that's something to look
Right.
into. Or you could just paint over, obviously, just paint that, that slot. So yeah, we have properties where there's no trash compactor anymore, and then you just have an
And
empty
they
spot.
just put like a trash can or something inside
Yeah,
of
you
it.
can just put a trash can in, maybe one of those step cans. The tenant can just, and then just throw things away. Um,
You were saying a range hood where that so you're saying a microwave that has a range built into it, or
no,
getting
event
rid of the microwave and putting a range there instead?
No, so this is called a range because it's
Oh,
yeah.
I was thinking of one of those like those range hood things.
Oh yeah, no. So yeah, a lot of people it's hard. They'll call this a stove, right? Which is kind of more of a
Or I call it an oven. That's what I
outdated
call
term. But yeah, the front thing is an oven, and then the burners on top,
it. Or
which
the stove,
we
yes.
don't see, but those are your burners. So the whole unit is a range. Like when you go to Home Depot or Sears and you look for it, you look for a range or whatever company you choose. And then the microwave that's built in like this over the range would have the vent hood underneath. So you
Right.
basically, the all your smoke and stuff as you're cooking will vent out, through the microwave. And this is a countertop. It looks like a countertop microwave that maybe is just something extra that they had. I don't know. Maybe
No,
was it?
that microwave. That's like, yeah, that's another second microwave my mom had.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, it's like it's like a rinky-dink microwave. Like all those microwaves are like, yeah, I don't know why she had more. Well, probably because the other one was the original one. But yeah, it's
Oh,
almost like it goes ding, it
I
goes
thought
off.
maybe this microwave stopped working, and so then they just put a countertop
No,
in.
it still works.
Okay.
It's just like I don't know why. Maybe she didn't really know how to work. I don't know, like mechanical things. So
That is hilarious. Um, anyway, so yeah, so those are, just some things to think about. What else can I say here? Obviously, the wallpaper is very dated, so you'll want to, get rid of that paint over those walls. Anything else that you can think of that maybe isn't even in the photos, but that you have questions or concerns about in terms
um
of the remodeling aspect or repairs?
well, one, the as far as painting colors, I think it seems to me right now the trend is white,
Hmm.
but but I guess maybe like an off-white too. But I know there's like warmer colors too that people use, but I don't know if you've seen any like typical trends right now that a lot of apartments are. I mean, probably just neutral.
Yeah, anything that's kind of neutral on the lighter side so that people don't feel like it's dark, whether it be like a light taupe or even a light gray, not too gray where it's super
Right.
cold. But what's funny is the pandemic has changed a lot because, a few years ago, gray was still in and then it became taupe. But before that, it was like kind of more of the warm neutral, like with a little bit more yellow tone, like tan, kind of like the paint in my study right here.
Right.
But now people are wanting like sunny, happy colors, right? Because they're depressed, during the pandemic. So they want something more lively. And you'll also see these, like Sherwin-Williams or other paint companies that will come out with their color of the year and it's some like bright blue or something like that, when obviously you cannot paint a unit bright
I was
blue.
gonna say I'm gonna paint it yellow.
And so the best thing that we know to do, which is what builders usually do, is you want to just do something that applies to the masses, right? You can't please everyone. Someone will want bright blue, but
Right.
they're not going to hate you if you do something sort of like an off-white, or like a light taupe or something like that. And then, if they may ask you, may I paint an accent wall or paint a room a certain color? And then, you just tell them to send you that color swatch, the sample, the name of it, and then you can give them written approval to do so, because that's something the landlord has to approve if you sign the standard Texas Association of Realtors residential lease document. And then the other thing you'll have to do, which, whatever property manager that you settle on should be able to advise you, is putting in certain safety features that are required by Texas property code. So for example, on the exterior of the front door, you need a peephole. It looks like there's already a peephole there.
Yeah. There's a
Um, so the lock, you need to have a regular deadbolt where it can be unlocked from the outside with a key, but you also need a keyless deadbolt. So that means right above it, you would have a lock that I don't see from outside. I can't open from outside, but from inside, the tenant can lock and nobody can get in when they're home and they want to lock the door. So they have privacy if they're in the shower or sleeping, that a maintenance person or you as the landlord or your property manager cannot just come barging in. I mean,
right.
not that you would do that, but that gives them the peace of mind, and that's the reason for the code. I don't know, but maybe you would, Phil, but I'm just kidding.
Hey,
Hello.
why would I? There's a security camera apparently in the bathroom.
Exactly.
There's not. There's
No,
not.
no, no. So yes, and then smoke alarms. You need to have one in the bedroom and one outside the bedroom. And since you're just a one-story unit, then that's all that you need. And then if there's any other exterior doors, you also need to have, if it's a door like this, the same type of hardware in the peephole, the keyless deadbolt. If it's a sliding glass door, you're going to have a pin lock, which is one of those where you can put like kind of a nail, what they call a pin, into a hole into the frame of the sliding glass door so that it can't open if somebody were trying to force it open from outside, plus a second lock of some type, which usually there's already a built-in latch that came with the sliding glass door. The pin lock is usually something that you add after the fact because you're renting it out. So those are just some of the safety features you have to have for rental properties.
Hmm.
So what other questions do you have for me? Oh, we didn't talk about pricing and kind of what return you're looking for. Tell me what you've found out so far.
So I feel like like let me double check. I feel like the surrounding areas for that unit was around 12. There was 1,200, between 1,000 to 1,200.
Okay.
To 1,200
A month.
for one bedroom units. But I'm guessing probably somewhere in the middle, if not like I I guess it would be I guess it would really depend on what the other units are currently and what I'm facing competition wise, right?
Yeah, so you have to look at both sold or leased units and active ones, because the active ones are your competition, and then the sold, or I say sold because when we talk about selling properties, but in this case leased, are what actually consumers have been willing to pay. So that really tells a story too. And you want to look roughly in the last 6 months because that gives you more current data. And then right now, since we've been on in the pandemic for a while, then that's a pretty accurate gauge as well to see kind of what the current vibe is. But of course, the market can change at any time.
Right.
But yeah, you want to look at how updated are the other units. What are their layouts like in comparison to yours? Of course, you want to compare apples to apples. So if they also have one bedroom, one bath, are similar in size, the number of bedrooms and baths really matters, obviously. So a variation in that can skew the rent price quite a bit. If there's just a slight variation in square footage, like they're 20 square feet larger or smaller, probably not as noticeable. If there's a bigger difference, then it's more noticeable.
Mhm.
So yeah, you're looking at all of that to determine what you're going to set your price at to be competitive to the ones that are on the market, and also accurate to what's already leased out before. So for example, if there's a unit on the market that's priced way above what other units were priced at when they leased, right, like what they leased for, then that one's probably overpriced, all else being equal. And so you don't want to do that, right? You want to be lower. More reasonable would be comparable to the units that are already leased, what those leased for. If there is a unit that's priced competitively and good, and units lease very quickly in that place, so your realtor would look and see, okay, maybe there were 3 vacant units last month and they all leased out within a week. That means it's okay for you to price at either the same price or maybe even slightly higher if it's warranted than the other competing units that are on the market at the same time. But if they take a little while to lease and you price comparably or higher, then you're probably going to be the last one to lease out. The competition is going to lease out first. So then I like to undercut them, like, okay, maybe $25 less or something like that, so that way when people look, they're like, well, geez, these units are pretty similar, but this one costs $25 less. I'm going for this.
Mhm.
Other factors would be the location of your unit within the community. If you back up to something bad versus good, what is the view? So of course, if you're next to the dumpster, then that's not as desirable. You've got the lake view, so that's good. If there's a unit that faces a different direction and doesn't have the lake view, then they're going to be less desirable. So lots of different factors to think about. But in your case, you also want to consider your costs. As I know your question was, should I even keep this as an investment property? So, whether you have a mortgage on it to pay, property taxes, insurance, any HOA fees, and then of course your management fees to the management company. These are all costs to factor in. And repair costs are a little bit less predictable, but these are all costs that you can look up. Right? There's records for it, and so you know what those costs will be, and look at what your potential rent can be, and let's see if you can turn a profit. Right? Rent minus all those expenses. If you don't have a mortgage, then you should expect to turn a profit. If you can't turn a profit, then I wouldn't rent it out, because what's the point? You're never going to turn a profit probably, right? But if you have a mortgage, then you may just be breaking even, and that's still okay, or turn a small profit, but it would be like the tenants are paying for your expenses. And then once your mortgage is paid off, then you start making your profits. And so that's what we would expect in a scenario like that.
Mhm. Um, Going back, I have a question about the appliances now I'm thinking about it.
Hmm.
You don't recommend changing the appliances out in phases. If I'm going to change the appliances, change them all out as like one, like full, like do it all at the top versus like, oh, telling a tenant like throughout the time we may be updating like new appliances. So it's not all like one large cost at the top versus like spreading it out somehow. That seems like, I don't know if that's a normal thing or not, but someone had, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would say for like, so the most important room in the house usually is the kitchen because that's
Mhm.
where everybody gathers. It's the most obvious room. Everybody comes in and it's like, oh, you see the kitchen, right? And, the family room obviously is a central place, but there's not really a lot going on there. It's just four walls, right? And it's, I mean, a
Mhm.
light fixture. So, like, we looked at the ceiling fan. So, I would say if you're doing granite countertops and repainting or sanding and staining those cabinets, then all of a sudden, and you know what, I stopped the screen share, but let's go back to it so that we can just see it again, um, is that it would look a little weird to have everything modernized. And you see my picture again, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Not my picture, your picture, but um, it would just look a little weird to have these old appliances against a new sink, new faucet, new granite countertops, nice looking cabinets and all of
Right.
the old appliances, right? So that kind of makes it challenging. Like that's why looking at these appliances, they all look old. So you'd have to replace them all. Now, if there was an appliance that was say, I don't know, 7 years old, more modern, maybe we don't need to replace that one, right? But yeah, and you want to replace them to all the same color too, so that they're all uniform. Black is more attractive than white. Sometimes there's a difference in cost in the color. Obviously, there are higher end colors now with like matte black and just all these funky colors that we didn't even see several years ago. But
Right.
I think black is one that's easy. It doesn't really add a lot to the cost. Sometimes black may cost more than white, but sometimes no. And so that's what we usually go for. Is if we're changing them all out, just change them out to black. If they were all white and they're all good except one appliance, then you want to just go ahead and just replace it with white. Otherwise, you've got this one black appliance, and it's kind of hard because you're thinking, well, eventually I'm going to have to change these out. So why don't I just transition this one appliance to black? While we're at it, there could be some wisdom in that. But usually I like to just match what's existing, or if we're going to do a complete change out, then just switch it all to black.
Okay. That's what I was wondering because the thought I had at first was if I only do a couple of them, like I would want to do the ones that would be problematic. Like I was thinking like they had water involved, but I think probably all of them should probably be done at once for more. I mean, that would probably be the smartest thing to get it moving, I think.
Yeah. Oh, and then the washer and dryer, we looked at, almost forgot to talk about those. So since they're in a different room, not as visible, if you wanted to save money, those could be the last priority to change out. If they still work, leave those there. Yeah, that's what I would say is you can just leave those there for now if they work fine and they're not like rusted or anything, like
No,
horrible.
they still work. It's just that they're old. I
Yeah.
mean,
That's like us. We still work. We're old.
and we're old.
That's right. We don't work as well, but sometimes we're traded in for newer models, but that's okay.
You got to replace a cog here and there.
There you go. Little joints, and
Yeah, it's just
gotta fix
some
things.
WD-40.
That's right. Well, cool, Phil.
Cool.
I think we've covered a lot of ground. Does it seem like you are thinking just to move forward doing this and keeping it as a rental
Yeah, I
property?
mean, my one concern was if it like yeah, I was figuring out how much of a profit it would bring in, meaning like is it a potential headache? Like
Mhm.
could it be that like, oh, this is bringing some profit which would build up over time, but is it worth it if something like suddenly one day they're like, oh, this happened, now you have to spend $10,000. But I don't know how realistic that actually like would, if that's like a very normal thing that happens where it's like out of nowhere you're spending like thousands and thousands of dollars versus I could have just sold this from the very beginning.
Right. So what calculations have you done roughly, or your realtor, in terms of what your profit could be per year under normal circumstances, or per month?
Oh, per month? Hmm. I think it was, I feel like it was a couple $100.
Couple hundred, like 200, or more like four or 500?
No, more like 4 or 500, I think.
Okay. So that multiplied out over a year is about, it could be up to like maybe $6,000, $6,000, something like that.
Mhm.
And so I would say that in terms of a unit this size being small, any sort of big repairs, right? Like if the AC or the water heater go out and you have to replace them, it's still not going to be $10,000, right?
Right.
So water heater might be like 1,000 total. You know, I'm talking in our market, in terms of like the heater itself plus the labor to replace, or maybe 1,000 something, or the AC system. You know, if you're talking about a full house AC system, it could cost
Right.
that much if it's a larger house. This is a little condo, so you know, maybe a couple thousand or a few $1,000s. So, and then of course you do have, you know, your insurance, and you want landlord liability. And if you're on ground level, flood insurance is always recommended. In Houston anyway, I don't know up there, you know, your property manager may say something different. There's a
Sorry,
less of a risk, but in Houston area, I say always buy flood insurance if you're on the ground level. And so, yeah, so some things will be covered, and then there may be expenses like that that are going to be coming due, because especially if this unit hasn't been upgraded, things haven't been replaced, and if they are original units, then yeah, you would expect that some things. I mean, I would venture to say if that unit is like 30 years old, roughly, I mean, I'm sure the water heater and the AC would have been replaced at some point, is my guess, because I mean, I guess some of them can last a long time. I'm trying to see. I don't see, yeah, a date on here, but yeah, I mean, I would think that maybe they've been replaced at least once, and who knows when. So you can kind of factor that in, like what kind of replacements. But I think that's a good profit to get. You know, I don't know how much your unit cost. I think you mentioned something about maybe it being around 100,000. Is that correct? Am I remembering that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, you're looking at maybe 5-6% return if you were to say buy it and just pay cash for it. Of course, if you were to get a mortgage and say, you know, borrow the rest, like if you only put down 20,000 or 25,000, then your return is really quite good to get back 5-6,000 a year, right? But then actually, sorry to back up, you wouldn't be getting 5 or 6,000 because you'd be paying that in mortgage. So that's a totally
Right.
different calculation. But pretending you were paying cash, but in your case, because you inherited the property, you didn't have to pay for it, so you're just making pure profit. That's great. Like making that extra several thousand a year, potentially. And even if one year you had to replace something and you maybe lost a couple thousand, then you know that's still not bad. And you can see how when people amass more rental properties, how much those profits can add up, right? If you have 10 of those, all of a sudden you have 50,
Right.
60,000. That's a, you know, a full-time income, right? Of
Right. Right.
a nurse or, you know, another professional. It's like having I like to say having an invisible third adult living in my household when I have a rental properties, you know, that I've collected to get that income. So that really helps. And for you, it's less headache because you're not managing it. Someone else is dealing with it. They'll ask you, they should ask you, you know, if you're gonna, or if before they make big replacements or big expensive repairs, you know, they may ask you for you to approve certain things that are kind of elective. But otherwise, you know, yeah, I mean, it's not as big of a headache if you're not the one managing it, because yes, it is a headache to manage these properties, because that's what we do. We
Well,
have over
that's
300 of them
why
we
I
manage.
definitely, yeah, I definitely want to get a property manager, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Or, you know, if one of your relatives does it. But the hard thing is because it's such a litigious industry with
Mhm.
tenants trying to sue and, you know, make complaints against you or whatever, you really want someone who knows what they're doing. So if there's a good property manager who's experienced and knows the laws and every single thing they need to do, because it's very complicated, then yeah, definitely do that. Go that way. Well, good luck.
Thank
I'm
you.
excited. You got to send me pictures after it's done. We've seen the before. Let's see the after pictures and see how it goes.
I send you the for sale sign.
Or that, you know,
The sold sign. No, I'm not.
you know, you can make the profit, you know, for selling it right now, right, and take a big lump sum in money. But the thing is, if you get the rental
Right.
income over years and sell
Right.
it later when it's possibly appreciated even more,
It's
then you're making more over the long haul. So I think for you, it's a good extra stream of income. I'd go for it.
I mean,
Maybe.
there's a part of me that I grew up like in sort of, I didn't grow up in the unit, but I did spend a lot of my childhood there, so like there's a little bit of a sentimental factor to it. So
Yeah, maybe one day you'll move back closer to me. You can go move in there after the tenant moves out.
that's right. That's right.
You can hang out more. All right. Well, Phil, thank you so much for being
Thank
on
you.
today. It was fun and so good to see you. Thank you everyone for watching. Please follow, like, and subscribe on YouTube and Facebook. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to post them below or send me a direct message. And if you have any questions about investment properties or wanting guidance from a real estate broker, you can also message me for that. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Everybody have a great week. Bye-bye now.